He's going to talk about what he learned about growth. I don't know for you, but when usually I hear people talking about growth, I'm kind of allergic to bullshit. But when Yaroslav come to us and showed us exactly what they do, we were like, this is super interesting. He's going to talk about it, not me. So please I welcome Yaroslav. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So unfortunately, this is English. So 9 lessons we've learned from scaling a new product from the beginning to the first million in revenue. And firstly, a couple of words about myself. So my name is Yaroslav. I'm a product marketing manager at a company called MacPaw. MacPaw is we mostly develop software for Mac computers, and one of the most famous ones are Clean My Mac, Gemini, and of course Setapp, which we have released slightly less than a year ago. And this talk is about this product, about the lessons we learned from launching Setapp. So what Setapp is, it's an app store that works on a subscription model and gives users access to curated, high-quality applications from trusted Mac developers. So it's kind of like Netflix or Spotify, but for Mac users, Mac computers. It has been released in January last year, and in 6 months since the release, we've seen the first million. That's a sweet word, $1 million. So, lessons learned. Lesson 1, I called it Make a Product Launch Exclusive. And we all love exclusivity, right? Humans love being part of something that not everyone knows about or not everyone gets access to. And that is why instead of making Setapp available to all the Mac users in the universe and make it instantly accessible by anyone, we took a different approach, an exclusive one. And what we did, we introduced a 3-stage go-to-market strategy, which started with closed beta, then followed with invite-only beta, which we kept exclusive, and which gave us a lot of opportunities for growth. And only then the public release happened. So let's go through them one by one. Closed beta. Actually, beta is pretty well understood and logical milestone in any product development and release lifecycle. You just give access to users, they test it, give you feedback, you improve the product and release a new, better version of it. But ours was totally different. What we did actually was releasing beta before beta. And here is what we did. We crafted unique pitches to over 1,000 people. And those people were industry influencers, bloggers, vloggers, journalists, editors. And we crafted unique pitch and we invited them to be one of the first to exclusively try the product that has not gone to the public, that has not been released even to beta yet. And that's where exclusivity is, right? We invited a really cool audience to be one of the first to try. And a couple of critical steps here. So if you guys would love to apply this beta before beta approach, here is what you need to make sure happens. First, define the target audience. So it's really important to... Hello? Oh, okay. It's probably not because I'm not speaking French. So define the target audience. It's really important to define who you want to be the first to try. For us, those were people, those were influencers who would help us spread the word about the product afterwards. Second thing, create the perfect pitch. And it's really important to invest a lot of time to send really resonating message to those. Ours were different because, like I said, we had over 1,000 people on the list, and we were creating different messages for them. But all of the messages had an idea saying like, we are changing the way Mac market works, and you are exclusively invited to be one of the first to try the next big thing. Number 3, personalize every message. So you do not want to send one and the same message to all of them, right? This is not an email campaign where you deliver one and the same thing to a lot of people. So you have to analyze what they read about, what they write about, what their preferences are, and so on and so forth. So it really has to be personalized. And number 4, be prepared to follow up. So do not expect them to start using the product from the very first attempt you outreach them. So they will not. And the follow-up strategy should not be something about, I just wanted to follow up, I just wanted to make sure you received my previous email. So it really has to be unique. And it's not that complicated to do so, because outbound is pretty established thing, and there are a bunch of best practices on how to do it. Next step, beta testing for users. And basically this thing happened sooner than we wanted to, because the first one, as you would assume, it has all been done under embargo. We asked those people not to disclose anything about the product, but one of the journalists, God bless him, he wrote about us. And that's how the actual leak happened, which we wanted to happen much later. But anyways, this is... One, two, three. Okay. That was the moment when we saw Setapp as a search query in Google Analytics, and that was an awesome feeling. And we understood that we have to do something, because press has started writing about us. There was some buzz happening. Users went to setapp.com. But we did not rush to the public release yet. What we actually did, we introduced the waiting list on the website, where users could subscribe and stay in line, stay in queue in the waiting list to wait for their invitation to try something being discussed. And a really cool thing that we did, we were giving those invitations without a line, with no queue, if they did something helping promoting Setapp, right? If they mentioned us even on a Facebook post, or they were tweeting about us, or they were writing a review, they would get access immediately. And another thing that we did, to those influencers from the previous stage, from the beta before beta, we gave them from 50 to 100, depending on their coverage, invitations to this stage. And that was a good reason for them to write once again about us. And this, again, stimulated the traffic, the number of subscribers in the waiting list. Results. So it was 6 weeks period for this second stage, and we've gotten more than 30,000 beta testers. This is a perfect audience. Like, we love those people because they are very active, they give tons of feedback, and they are never shy. I mean, if something's not working, they will let you know immediately. And some of them became, not even some of them, but a huge portion of them became paid users. Stage 3, public release. That was the moment we all had been waiting for. That was the moment to press the button and make the product live, and now anyone could use it. So exclusivity was over. And the good thing is, having done all the work from 2 previous stages, beta before beta and beta with a waiting list, and this emphasis on exclusivity, it led us, it was so much easier to engage the press once again and to engage new press, because like certain buzz was already happening on the market. All right, and although it sounds like a really cool story, there were some mistakes made here. So first and foremost, the invite-only beta was too short because we were receiving a lot of feedback, and it may sound like we had enough time, more than 6 weeks, But think of it from the development standpoint. It's just a couple of development sprints, and you do not have time to work with all the feedback and to apply it to the product. And another thing, I'm a marketing person, so for us it was not enough time to define the target audience to go next. After the release happened, we had to market to users, and we did not have a clear definition of who the segments of users are for the next stages. And this comes to the second lesson: work with innovators and early adopters first, and always, like, for the sake of your budget, your team, and common sense, keep the product adoption life cycle in front of any meeting when the product is released, because you have to focus on innovators and early adopters first. This is a rule that you don't want to break, but we failed. We failed this rule, and we rushed to broader marketing, and at some point our targeting audience was planet Earth, right? We thought that any Mac user in the universe can use our product, and we thought we had good reasons to think so, because press was writing about us, user engagement was high, and we said, well, let's dive into marketing, and we had some money to spend, so we launched ridiculously huge video campaign. We were sponsoring pretty much anyone in the industry talking about Mac software, even iOS. Well, okay, that's still Apple ecosystem, let's invest there. And we ended up in the situation where client acquisition cost was $3,750. This is a real number. Now, think of it. It's a $10 a month subscription. And I'm talking to my CEO, explaining him the numbers with a $3,750 as a client acquisition cost. So that was not really good experience, but it was what it was. And a good way, the way I was describing, I was joking, like my grandchildren would potentially see the outcome of the whole initiative. By the time computers would not exist, obviously. So we stopped, thankfully. We stopped and refocused, and we started doing what worked really well in the betas, and we took a focus on innovators and early adopters once again, and we designed a value proposition specifically for them, and we started targeting specifically them. And having done that, the costs were relatively under control. So $170, it's still a lot, but with family account being ready to release, with a referral system being ready to release, that was relatively okay, and obviously much better compared to almost $4,000. Now, the next lesson, build a community before aiming for revenue. This is a pretty logical statement. Every product needs a community, but lesson we learned, I wish we did it earlier, because we kind of postponed, well, we don't need it now, and when we created just a Facebook group, we got more than 3,000 people in a very short period of time. And again, this is super nice audience, they are very loyal. And why it's cool for us, because first of all, it's a free marketing channel because they onboard their friends and co-workers. And what we do a lot in a product team, we do a lot of user interviews, and we send a lot of surveys to our users. We do the beta testing of smaller and bigger features with them before they go to public. And this community on Facebook group, they help us a lot. Actually, sometimes the way it works, I just write a post like, who's available for interview this week? Raise your hand, and boom, 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 we have like 5 interviews scheduled for this week. It's really, or another case that I can talk about, I have recently received a Skype call from customer of ours, and he said, well, you know, I'm doing show, send me 2 t-shirts with Setapp on this, I will be performing my shows in your swag to help you promote. And it's not money relations, so he was not requiring any money being paid. So do it. It's it's so obvious, but the lesson is do it like from the day one, immediately. Lesson 4 is about personalized onboarding. So this is what our funnel looks like. We have visits, traffic, we have signups, then engaged users, and then paid users. And we precisely track the conversion on every stage, like visit to sign up to engaged user, then engaged user to a paid user. And one of the mistakes that we think anyone has to avoid is assuming that something that works for one segment would work for all the audiences. This is not true. This is not true, because we identified a couple of good onboarding scenarios during 7-day free trial, and we're starting scaling it to all the audiences that we had, and we failed. So we introduced and we designed actually different onboarding flows during the free trial, which is 7 days, for different segments of audience. And by segments of audience, I do not mean demographics or geolocation or anything like that. It's about the channel that they come from. For example, if user comes from paid advertising, he's very different from those who come from organic search, because those who come from organic search, they do not have to be educated in a very detailed manner. They figure out, at least in our product, they figure out things pretty fast, and they do not require really precise onboarding. While those who we drive through the paid channels, we are not shy to pretty much bombard them with emails, right, during their free trial, and they are fine with this. It's as long as it's done right. So it's tough. To be honest with you, it's really tough to build all those segments and to realize the whole idea from the technical standpoint. But it's really worth it, because check how numbers have changed. So what we are seeing here is the funnel and the conversion of traffic to sign up to engaged user, and engaged user to a paid one. So it moved from 7-something to almost 13. We significantly improved the conversion of trial users to engaged users, and this is super critical for us, because we know that if they do not start using the product within a couple of days, they're gone. Like, there are zero chances to bring them back, even if you offer discounts. So no matter what you're doing, they're gone. And we almost doubled the conversion to of engaged users to paid ones. Now, lesson 5, not all metrics carry the same importance. This monkey was supposed to be a little lower, but that's okay. So, at MacPaw, this is a real picture of our office and myself posing in front of the dashboard. So, at MacPaw, we are really obsessed with data, or data, whatever you prefer to call it. Like, I don't think there is a metric that is not measured, right? We have a team of really talented analytical people, and it's real team. There are like 5 of them, and everything they're doing, they're just analyzing the numbers and put those to those dashboards that anyone in the office can see, right? And it may seem really cool, kind of like data or data paradise. But with this paradise, there was one really significant problem. So the way team is structured, we have marketing team and product team and team of stakeholders, and then a review team who lets the applications in, and then business development team, account management, front end, back end, desktop, web. So there's a lot of people, like the whole team is more than 50 employees. And each and every gang had its own KPI and its own understanding what's important, what's not. And it was really, you could feel it with during the meeting with stakeholders or the management of the company, because they had their expectations. We had our own definition of success. But what we understood, that we do need to have a North Star, right? This is a pretty known term. We understood that we have to define one single metric that every team should be aligned to, and that would influence all the goals we define. And that metric was, and we spent a lot of time brainstorming, like, what should it be, and debating, yeah, this makes sense, this does not make sense, and so on and so forth. But we defined the North Star quarter-over-quarter vendor payout growth. So what it is, what vendor payout growth means, Setapp is an app store, right? Developers distribute their applications via Setapp. And by vendors, we mean developers. So we thought if they are successful, if they make money, if their revenue grows, it means we are successful and more sustainable as a business. And we defined this as a North Star for the entire team. And instead of what it gave us, instead of planning from the top of the funnel where we have visits and signups and then engaged users and then paid users, and only then vendor payout growth, because out of the revenue we're generating, we distribute 70% of the revenue to the vendors. So we started planning from the bottom of the funnel. Like, we defined that we have to grow quarterly from one point to another in terms of vendor payout, and then it gave us understanding how many paid users we should have, and knowing the performance of the funnel, of the conversions of each of the stages, we knew how many paid engaged users we need to have, and pretty much like what's the traffic volume that we have to generate. And honestly, marketing team was not okay with this, because for marketing it's much easier to think like traffic, users, like everything that is on the top of the funnel. But when we took a look at the actual funnel performance on each of the stages and defined a couple of goals and clear milestones of what can be fixed to make this X or XYZ on a certain stages, it was so much easier to run the planning sessions, because you just have to, you have the numbers, you have the ideas from the planning sessions, and that's it. So for us, it was super nice. I understand it's not applicable for anyone in this room, because not everyone has vendor payout as a key metric, but the main story is, do not try to measure everything. Even if you can, if you have like smart people who put those really cool dashboards on the wall in the office and everyone is admiring, not understanding what the hell it means. So define one single thing and challenge all the ideas that you have against it. And another thing, challenge all the ideas. This is a real case, because when you work with a lot of people, they all have ideas, right? And they think those are good, especially when you run a planning session. And if you have a pleasure working like me with a super creative CEO and a stakeholder who thinks like everything's good, what he's saying. So having one metric defined, an ability to challenge all the ideas against it, allows me to cut something from day one, not wasting resources afterwards. Lesson 6, referral program. Dropbox, Uber, who else? Airbnb, everyone does it, right? And this is a huge part of success for a lot of businesses nowadays. And we decided to try it as well, especially, we moved from almost $4,000 to less than $200 in client acquisition cost, but it's still not positive indicator, right? And we had to make something else to bring more users in. So we decided to introduce the referral program, and we named it Friends Program. And friend is not a random word here, because the marketing we are doing is all about membership, right? We're in a subscription business, but we try to, in a communications with user, we try to avoid subscription as a term, because people kind of don't like it. They are not fine keep paying yet another subscription to someone else. So we called it Friends Program. And as a result of this program, 1.3, so out of 100 involved, there were 130 more users brought in. So it's the indicator is 1.3 new users brought in. And we will definitely scale this. It's working as is now. We will definitely scale it afterwards. Lesson 7. This is one of my, and everyone is French in the audience, right? This is one of my favorites. So decide when to go global, and we learned 4 lessons here. And I will go through them one by one. So find the market, test the market, scale localization, and measure success. And by finding a market, here is what I mean. So the fastest way is to check the traffic data to see which countries your users come from and to check the conversion. When we started, it was all about English, and we were targeting English-speaking territories only. But we've seen a huge traction from France, Germany, and Spain. So there was, it was the top 3 after the English-speaking countries. And we decided to test it, and the fastest way to test was to build a PPC campaign in Google AdWords. So we translated English keywords, ad copies, and landing pages to French, German, and Spanish, and launched it. And what we've seen was the client acquisition cost from translated advertising was almost half as much when compared to English versions, and that was indicator that we had to scale, right? So if it works, move forward and scale. And number 4, about measuring. So the way we do it, we always measure each stage of the funnel, like conversions of traffic to sign up to engaged, and then engaged to paid. And here are the results that we got. So France was super satisfied with French-speaking application, right? It was, we understood, well, yeah, that was cool. Germans were more loyal to English, but still there was a huge improvement. And we also improved the funnel for Spain and Brazil as well. Now, lesson 8, segment packages around customer needs. Even if the product solves one and the same problem for one and the same audience, there is always a way to find how to package the product to give people options to buy differently. Typically, products are segmented by packages like basic, premium, professional, whatever, and it really depends on what features are available in this or that package. In our case, there was no, and still there is no way to package the product by features, because what we do, we sell applications, and the commitment is to give like equal rights for all the users, and they all get access to the very same applications. But still, we were able to identify 2 different audiences, and we introduced the annual plan and student plan. On the user interviews, we kept hearing a lot users saying, give us an option to pay upfront, because it's complicated to pay monthly. Because for some of the users, like company pays for the software they are using, and they request monthly $10 month approval from their management. This just doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's why we introduced the annual account. It worked really well. So those are real numbers. 14.5% switched of existing users switched to annual account immediately, just after the email being sent to them, letting them know that annual account exists. And now 16 to 18, depending on a month, users prefer to pay annually, to pay upfront. And students, obviously, they love and expect a bargain. This a little contradicts the focus on innovators and adopters, but it was super easy to launch the 50% discount. And this is a good audience because it doesn't take much of effort to talk to them, and we are waiting for them to graduate and then go to their offices and bring Setapp there. Now, lesson 9, the last one, I mentioned a couple of times about the team we have, right? Because, so it's me, product marketing manager, product manager who's running the whole product, then stakeholders and management of the company, and then support team, review team, business development, marketing. Marketing team it's not small, like there are departments within it, and development. And we had to find a way how to structure and how to be effective. So, and we came up with a term. We defined ourselves as a PO team, product owners. So there is no one product owner, it's like product owners that consists of product marketing manager, product manager, and biz dev, review, and account management. We sync 3 times a week. There is one weekly sync where we talk, and 2 really, really short stand-ups where we stand, actually, no one sits, and you have to do it really, really fast. The key thing is to make sure the product marketing manager, and this is where we succeeded, is a good friend of product owner, product manager. So we sit pretty much next to each other, and when I want to do something and he does not agree, and I don't have good reasons to explain why this idea is good or bad, we're not doing this, and vice versa. If I don't buy his idea, we just stop. And obviously, product marketing manager is managing the PR, pay-per-click, email, SEO, content, and so on and so forth. So, and this is the synergy that we have. The next challenge is, because we are scaling Setapp now we will be scaling Setapp for business and adding huge features like family account, and we will try to apply the very same structure to big features, right? Not just for one product, but to big features, like Setapp for families, Setapp for businesses, and we will try to implement the very same logic to all of them. Once again, let's summarize briefly. 9 lessons. Exclusive approach, right? Beta before beta, then beta for users with an invite-only approach. Second thing, work, unless you want to pay $4,000 for a user, work with innovators and early adopters first. Then community matters. They're a super loyal audience, and you have to have them. So build them from the day one. Now, personalized onboarding. Traffic comes from different sources. All the users are different. Find a way to segment those and onboard them in a very personalized manner. And there is plenty of software that would allow you to do so. Not all the metrics carry the same importance. Like I said, define a North Star. It can be stars, maybe 2, but don't speculate. You cannot have a lot of them. Create a referral program. So think of Dropbox grows, right? It was a huge success, and I think if you have a loyal army of users, they will definitely bring more in. Decide when to go global. So a good way is to test the advertising first, and if it works, if hypothesis works, scale it to the entire product. And segment packages around the needs. In our case, it was not about features. It was more about how users pay. And the last but not the least, plan and deploy resources and teams effectively. And out of the 9 lessons, I would like to once again stress the importance of really, really good partnership of product marketing manager and product manager. They have to work pretty much like family. Right, they have to be really, really aligned in terms of what's up with the product. And I think that's it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Just a couple reminder, you can go on app.wisembly.com/LPC1 to ask questions. We already have a couple questions for you. I guess to extend on the last question, how big was the marketing team during the launch process?
Marketing or the whole team? Marketing?
Product marketing and marketing.
Yeah. Okay. So the marketing team was about 15 or so. That was the number for marketing. The whole team with developers and other people is 50 plus.
Then you talk a lot about acquiring user, but you're a marketplace. On the other side of the marketplace, you also have developers and application. What kind of strategy did you deploy to increase growth on the other side of the marketplace, and how they were treated differently?
So to get the developers on board, that was a huge challenge, by the way, because it's always a question of chicken or an egg, what comes first. When you talk to developers, when we were talking to developers from the very beginning, they were saying, well, show some traction and we'll join later. But we obviously had to partner with someone to start. So a huge portion is credibility of MacPo as a company. We've been on the Mac market for 10 years, and in this community we're pretty known. So we engaged for the beta 45, I think, applications, and now it's 120. So it's going really well. But it's more of another important thing, by the way, that we were doing. Those people that designed the dashboards that you've seen on the walls, what they did for developers were revenue prediction models. And when we were talking to Mac developers, we were telling them how much they will be making from X period of time with X amount of users using their application. And that really helped.
A question that comes up a couple times. How did you manage practically the feedback that came from the beta?
How did you manage it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So two big things that were told to design by those who providing feedbacks was app recommendation system, because users would need to be explained what are the apps that they can use, because like out of 100 applications, it's really difficult to find the good ones. So what we designed, pretty much like Spotify suggests the music that you may like, or Netflix suggests the next movie to watch. This is what we're doing with apps. And this is what users requested during the beta, but with such period of time, we were just not able to deliver it before the release, so we did it afterwards.
Then you often talk about early adopters and innovators as your segments, but how exactly are you defining them, and what are the characteristics of that segment?
So his name's Thomas. He plays PlayStation. He makes 200 plus annually. He has 3 kids. Sometimes he's a web developer. I mean, there's a bunch of... Thomas is a real name of the best user persona we have. But we define them out of all the interviews that we have with the users. And we kind of have several different ones, but there is a top one that is on the wall that anyone in the office can see. Even cleaning people going around the office can see the face of Thomas and characteristics that are applicable to him.
So back on the feedback, thank you for the person correcting me. The question was more, how did you get that feedback from all different channels, or where did it come from and how did you get it?
So the user feedback comes from several channels. First, they can leave it from the product. There is an option to leave a feedback and they just type it in. And like I said, this first segment of adopters and innovators, they are not lazy. They would actually sit and type and put the screenshots and explaining this should be this and this should be that and why I don't get this. And another channel for the feedback is user interviews. This is, if you are not doing user interviews, like start today, because this is the best source to get the feedback, honest feedback, and never apply, at least it's our experience, never apply any incentives to get the feedback, because they will lie. They will tell you your product is awesome. And I have the case, for instance, we were on a call with the guy who was running the church, and he says like, well, there are 7 Macs in my church. I will buy licenses for all of them. I will buy a license for my kids and my wife. I love your product so much, blah, blah, blah. But the incentive we were giving was Apple TV. And when we checked his account through Mixpanel, so he downloaded the tool, but he never actually used it. So talking to users is important, but make sure you talk to the right people.
So back to when you decided to release the product in closed beta, how did you decide what was your MVP?
How did we understand it's the right time to go to?
Yes.
Yeah, we created the folder. It's a ridiculous experience. I don't know how we could come up with it, but the way Setapp looked, there was a folder that you could add to the dock. Clicking it would open all the applications you have. That's it. Nothing more than that. So we are really, really, fast to the market, and we did not pretend to build something super fancy. We just wanted to test the hypothesis. Do people need curated software in one place? And that's how we did it.
Regarding your North Star, is it still the same today?
Off Star?
The North Star.
The North Star?
Yeah.
Yes. And seriously, I'm telling you, one single metric saves ridiculous amount of time, like filtering people's ideas, because they pitch you constantly. And we're humans, we love our ideas, right? And everyone thinks it makes perfect sense. But there is a North Star. Here is how it contributes to the goal. Here is the answer whether we have to make it. So.
And what would trigger a change in that definition?
The next one?
Yeah.
The next North Star? I don't know. I'm fine with this one. Obviously it should change, because you cannot live with one single metric forever, because market is changing, right? And you have to adopt all the efforts what you're doing. But for now, I'm fine with it.
And who came up with the decision of this is going to be your North Star?
It was a collaborative decision. Okay. Like I said, we had a lot of noisy meetings. Are you guys familiar with bullshit bingo? Yeah, so that was pretty much like it. But defining the North Star, it was a collaborative result of the collaborative meetings.
And then final question, how would you adapt the plan you just given us for B2B environment?
So how we would adapt for B2B? We are working on it, and it will be released sometime this year. It's all about managing the licenses and how departments responsible for software in the company give licenses to the users. So as soon as we nail this mechanism, I think we are ready.
All right, thank you, Yaroslav.
Thank you.